Thanks for tuning in to Talk It Out with Pratika Karkwa, a place to hear stories, experiences, and impact in the fields of mentoring and mental health. These two are one of the most important causes for today's youth. I'm your host, Pratika Karkwa, a current high schooler who is a passionate advocate for these causes, and it's here to provide you with a place to hear and learn from the inspiring experiences of our guests. We have here with us today Kristin Howard, current Chief Development Officer for Silver Lining Mentoring and former Chief Advancement Officer at Mentor, a nonprofit founded to expand opportunity for young people through mentoring in the United States. In 2021, Mentor received a portion of the $2.7 billion that philanthropist Mackenzie Scott gifted 286 teams empowering voices the world needs to hear. And this investment was only possible because of Mentor's enduring impact in society. We also have here with us today another very special guest, Alyssa, who is Kristin's mentee, and is here to share with us today her very inspiring life stories and experiences. Kristin, Alyssa, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to dive deeper into mentoring with our mentor-mentee power duo. So the Mentor National Organization highlighted Alyssa's wonderful life's journey through an interesting blog post regarding mentoring in the foster care system. I recommend our listeners check out the blog. Just type into Google mentoring in the foster care system, Alyssa's story. And so after reading that blog post, there were just so many questions going on in my head, which makes me even more excited for today's session. So Alyssa, let's start off with you. Could you please introduce yourself to us and share with us some of your early childhood experiences and challenges?
Hi, I'm Alyssa. I am 24. I live in Massachusetts, and I grew up in a pretty rocky family and ended up in the foster care system, mainly in group homes and such. And different challenges was just being an LGBT youth, struggling with mental health, and feeling pretty lonely.
Yeah, I know like you were sharing about your challenges, and oftentimes these challenges are what make us more resilient. And I know, thank you so much for sharing that with us. So I know it's like human nature to sometimes avoid connections or, push back something new or change because it's hard to adapt to. So, Alyssa, how did mentoring come into your life? And most importantly, how did you come to accept mentoring and feel that it would really help you in your life?
I met Kristin in 2013. I was in a group home, and I think I was advocating for myself at the time, saying like I need somebody to connect to. I feel really lonely. And so they paired me with Kristin, and I think I was very hesitant at first because I was like, this isn't gonna last. It's not gonna um go anywhere. It's just gonna be another person that's kind of paid to be in my life. And it was kind of overwhelming in that moment. But I think Kristin did a really good job of like making it about building connection first. Of like we went to this health end in Boston, and she took me on a bike ride and just experience first with me, which helped get me comfortable, I think, because I saw that she was putting effort in. Um, I forget the other part of the question.
Oh, yeah, it was just like about how did you feel like that it would, really help you, and what moment did that kind of pivotal feeling
I
happen?
think sometimes I'm still experiencing the moment, like to this day of like, but I think I just saw somebody that cared more about me as a person rather than like notes being written later or like, I don't know. I think I just felt like I was being seen as a person.
Well, yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. And one thing I want to give you kudos for is taking that first step, because I think that's sometimes the hardest thing to do. As you said, like first you were hesitant and you're like, okay, because initially you two were strangers. So like, can I, trust this person? But you took that first step and you're like, you asked for help, which I think is so important, which I also want to, encourage our listeners to do is when you feel like you need the help, it's important to ask rather than staying in that bubble and not sharing and telling people that, I need help with this. And then, you took that risk. Sometimes, like, that is what helps us a lot. And in your case, like, if you hadn't asked Kristin for help, maybe you would have never known, like, all the opportunities that this mentoring experience gave you. And then, as you said, your relationship evolved with like first starting off with like a bike ride. And like, as you said, Kristin cared about you as a person. And that's what really set her apart from, other individuals. So let's bring Kristin into the conversation. So Kristin, how did you decide you wanted to be a mentor and trusted figure in Alyssa's life? Like, What made you feel like, yes, I can help her, support her, and be like a positive force in her life?
Such a great question. And Alyssa may not remember this, but when she was advocating for a mentor, she was about to leave the group home that she was in. And I worked for the organization. I was in charge of the volunteer program. And I spent a lot of time on campus, and I'll never forget walking through the cafeteria one day before all this went down and seeing Alyssa sitting kind of alone and reading my favorite book ever, Tuesdays with Maury. And I'm not sure Alyssa picked the book or it just kind of ended up being the book that she had at the moment and was passing time in the group home. But I remember stopping and having a chat and thinking like, gosh, I just love that she's reading that book. It's a way to connect with her when I see her on campus. And so when I heard she was looking for a mentor and she was nearing leaving the group home, we typically wouldn't pair a mentor with someone for such a short period of time. And yet I was so impressed that she was advocating for it. So I had a conversation with her and I said, would you be open to me being your mini mentor? And that meant that like, I'll be here as mentor for as long as you're at the group home. And that way, we can start sooner rather than later. And so it kind of happened by a little bit of happenstance, but also by me having connected with her in other ways on the campus and me really feeling like this is a way that I can give back to someone who really is asking for someone to be in their life. And yeah, and it was amazing from day one. We had a lot of fun together. I think, she talks about me seeing her as a person, but she saw me as a person, right? She trusted me enough to show up when she said she would. She's, I think demonstrates that she's one of the strongest advocates for herself than anyone I've ever met. And on top of that, she's the person who always holds their word. When she says she'll do something, she'll do it. And if she has to cancel or something's changed, she lets you know. And she is a planner at heart. So she really values that in the relationship. And I really have valued that about her as well, that she just shows up when she says that she's going to be there and she shows up as her full self.
Oh yeah. So wait, I'm wondering, was it a formal or informal mentoring? Like, was it planned that like you guys were paired together, or was it more just like informally?
So it was I would say a little bit of both for the beginning. At the beginning, it was through the formal mentoring program. We allowed employees to mentor, and it was done under the understanding that it would be shorter term than the normal mentoring relationship. Because when typically at that time when a young person left the group home, the mentoring relationship closed. You did a formal closure. It closed, and off the young person went. And so we just had a shorter period of time together. And I remember telling Alyssa when she left, I gave her my contact information and I said, talk to your social worker. And if you want to stay in touch, here's how you can stay in touch with me. And we lost touch for Alyssa. How long did we lose touch for? A year, 2 years?
I think it was more than that because it was when I graduated high school. So I
Okay.
was 13 when you met me, and I don't know, I was 18
when you graduated. Okay, so it was a while where we didn't talk, and I moved on from that organization to mentor, and I remember getting a message on Facebook from Alyssa saying, "I don't know if this is allowed. I know we're not supposed to connect on social media. That was one of the rules of the formal program."
Mm.
But I just wanted to let you know I graduated high school, and
because
I
that
wanted
was
to
one
thank
of my
you.
goals when we were, because at the group home I lived in, you did school on campus. And I said, my goal in life is really to get back into public school and graduate from a public high school.
And she
Oh.
did. And so she reached out to me, and we've been in touch ever since.
Oh wow. Because I liked how you shared like how you guys first met just over a book, Tuesdays with Maury. And I think sometimes like it's those like meeting informally that makes it more organic and natural. That's kind of what happened with you guys. And I also liked what you said, Kristin, about like mentoring is a very like it's a mutual relationship, right? You both are benefiting from it because oftentimes people think it's like just the mentee benefits or just the mentor benefits, but like really it's a give and take, right? You both are learning from each other. And then, like, as you said, you both saw each other as people, you know, and
Mhm.
only then would a mentoring relationship truly even succeed, right? Because when you both are really just invested in it and enjoying yourselves, and it's not just a formality. So I think that's so inspiring. And then also you talked about how you appreciated Alyssa was an advocate for herself, and you know, she held her words, which is, you know, what we look for in a good person. And so I think that, you know, both of you just working together is what really brought the benefits of this mentoring relationship. And then what you said about how your relationship still stays, right? Like even after 5, 6 years when Alyssa was, you know, going throughout school, and you guys set the goal together, right? About Alyssa wanting to graduate from a public high school, or was that on her own?
That was Alyssa, all Alyssa, but we talked a lot about that when we were in more of the formal mentoring relationship, right? Part of the reason you're in those relationships is to help each other achieve the goals. So we spent some time talking about like, what do you really want to do, and how can you do that, and how can you get back into public school? And so that was all Alyssa,
Yeah, I'm sure that gave
creating
her
that goal, but
confidence.
also achieving it.
Yeah, and I think like that gave her confidence working with you, because you were all, you know, constantly, of course, giving her that affirmation that of course you can do. And I think that that's kind of the beauty of mentoring, because it's something that you both, at the end of the day, you both are like, wow, like I learned so much from the other person. And so, Alyssa, what have been, I know we talked a little bit about it, but like what have been the positive impacts of mentoring in your life? Are there any specific instances that you're like, you know, this is when I really saw the power of mentoring?
I think I'm just learning like things in life from Kristin. Um, like I think we talked on the phone last night of how she'll always be there, but if she needs to fill her own cup, she'll put herself first, and it makes me realize that I can do that too. And so it's like small things that are not like a forced conversation, but I can just go and say what I need to say and get, I don't want to say vented at or um I don't know, but it's like a conversation that opens up so many different things that I never realized. And I think it's just like I've learned to do like accept different traditions into my life and different points of views, and um it's just been overall amazing.
Yeah, I like how you said like there's less like formality. It's just like open like conversations. And like, you know, when you're sometimes talking to someone, like you feel like there's like a gap, like, you know, can I tell this person? But like, you know, what your mentoring relationship really, I guess, portrays to us is that it's very organic, it's natural. There's no like barriers and gaps that you feel. And I think that's, you know, really the sign of a true successful mentoring relationship. There's no gap that you feel in between. And then what you said about mentoring gives you more opportunities. Oftentimes, like we in life, like we have like a single path that we look at. And sometimes through mentoring, we're just able to, I guess, see more perspectives and like, I guess, open our world views, right? And so I think that, you know, having that relationship with somebody is just so beautiful, because it allows you to just change as a person, right, for the better. And so, Kristin, like, yeah,
Pratika, can I jump in for a quick second? Because I
yeah.
think what's beautiful about this is to the point you made earlier around being reciprocal. Let's just be clear, like Alyssa and I have had our challenges in our relationship, in our friendship, and as much as Alyssa is a part of my family now, my daughter calls her auntie, and she's over for the holidays, and we celebrate traditions together. There are times when it gets tough, right? When Alyssa might have been struggling and I didn't know how to support Alyssa, and I did the wrong thing. And it's not always easy. And I think the thing we talk about, Alyssa, even last night, was that, you know, the reality is you keep showing up, even when it's hard, even when you do things wrong. You apologize, you learn from that mistake, and you shift and you try a different approach next time. And I think what I have found so valuable is the way Alyssa has opened my eyes and taught me things, not just about life, but about how you support someone when they're struggling, and how you understand what they need, and how you don't always have to fix it. And sometimes you shouldn't fix it. Sometimes you just need to sit with someone in the uncomfortable experience. And I think that has made me a better human. It's made me a better professional, but it's also made me so much better as a mom. And so I think every day about how much I've gotten from Alyssa from this experience just by being able to be part of her life, and get to watch her kind of go through her journey. So I think it's important to
Yeah.
share that, because I think we often think of, to your point at the beginning, it being one-sided, but I often joke that I've probably learned more and benefited more from this relationship than maybe Alyssa has. So
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because, you know, it's not always in a mentoring relationship. It's not always rainbows and unicorns. There's obviously ups and downs, and it's like anything else in life. And so it's also important that, like, before people, you know, to understand mentoring relationship, it's not always perfect. Like, there will be times when, you know, it will be tough, but then it's also about having that patience and resilience to not give up and be like, okay, this is done. Like, it's not working, but having that resilience, as you said, just like meeting, having that conversation. And as you said, it's not always like just it's going to be fixed, but just coming up with solutions in the long run and like taking those feedbacks and improvement points for the future so you can improve. And yeah, I think it's so important for people to understand it's really just like it's a reciprocative relationship. It's not one-sided, because I know that's like a misconception. Sometimes we think that it's just the mentor benefits from the mentee, or the mentor or the mentee benefits from the mentor, but it's really, if it wouldn't work right if it's just one-sided, right? It would only be very short term, and it wouldn't be, as you guys have been knowing each other for years and years, it wouldn't be successful if it was just one-sided, right? Because there would be no motivation like from the other side. And so, Kristin, how did the mentoring and mental health support like together help Alyssa? Like, what was your role in terms of handholding Alyssa in your long-standing journey together?
yeah, I feel
That's
like
such a
Alyssa's
deep
probably best
question.
to answer that. What was that, Alyssa?
That's such a deep question.
I know. I'm gonna let Alyssa answer the first part of that, and I'm gonna reframe, like, I don't ever feel like I have to handhold Alyssa, because Alyssa is the strongest advocate for herself, and she is so self-reflective and wise beyond her years. And so what I find that I try to do in these moments is to just be there, right? Like, oftentimes what I have learned from this experience about mental health and the challenges that Alyssa faces sometimes is that sometimes she just needs to be reminded that she's loved unconditionally. And if that is my role in this world, then it's the best role I've ever had. And it brings me so much joy. And I get emotional just thinking about it, because, right, like, when anyone's struggling, all you really want to know is someone sees you and they love you despite all the things you're going through. And that's how I feel. And so I think Alyssa could share what that support has meant to her better than I can share what I think it has meant to her.
I think when I think about this question, I think of a few instances. Like when I was just leaving group home settings and was in an independent living program, and I there was one day where like I was really struggling and nothing felt right, and I had turned my room upside down, and I called Kristin and she came over and she helped me put my room back together and clean my house and get it to where it felt safe to be there again. And I just remember being like really hesitant to call her, of like, she's gonna judge me because my house is a mess. She's gonna be upset because this isn't what you're supposed to do. I had all these fears, and I still called her and she came and she didn't bat an eye. She didn't turn her head away. She didn't judge me. She just said, okay, well, let's get this right. And in those moments, it is just showing up and loving me unconditionally. So, and then there's been other times where she's needed to do more extremes of getting me to the doctor, or doing more intense work with my mental health. And it's always just been like, this is what it is, and it's not too much. It's not an inconvenience. I just want to get you through it, and that's been really helpful.
Yeah, I love what you said, and it's so genuine because, like, as you said, in a mentoring relationship, before you can trust somebody, the most important thing is like knowing that they won't judge you, and that's the sign of a true mentor, right? And sometimes really all we need is a listening ear and those affirmations that, you know, you're loved, you can rely on me, and it's sometimes it's not just like giving something tangible. It's just like, I guess, selflessly just listening and just taking in what you have to say. Sometimes like mentoring I know, Kristin, you were talking, it's just listening. It's just like making sure that you can be that supportive person and someone that the mentee can rely on. And I know that, Alyssa, I'm sure there's been like many instances that really strengthen your mentoring relationship over the years, as you were just sharing, right, one of your stories. And what really strengthened it is the fact that, you guys don't judge each other, and it's that genuine, as I said, there's no gap. Like there's no like, oh, this person will judge me, or oh, this person will not listen to me, and not, I guess I can't rely on them. It's that genuineness which is just so important. And I think it's beautiful that you guys have that, because it's not that easy for everybody to have that mentoring relationship that's long standing, right? Because you guys have been, in this relationship for so many years, and it only thrives based on your mutual understanding. So I think I kudos to you guys for that. I think it's so beautiful. So
Tika, I'd say, can I just say the other thing
yeah.
that I often think about too, and
Mhm.
Alyssa, we've talked about this, you have been struggling is, you know, it's easy when you have, when you struggle with mental health to, to feel like, why is this happening to me? And like, not knowing like how to overcome the feelings that you're feeling and sometimes. And I think one of the things we talked about is this reminder that like this is actually a disease. Like this is actually a diagnosis that you have, just like diabetes or any number of other chronic illnesses. And like we just have to get through it. We have to like work through the treatment, and we have to remember to be there for each other and not to like look down on it, right? Like not to, I think in this world it's so stigmatized and people don't talk about it, and then you feel so alone when you're going through it. And I don't know, I'm just really proud, Alyssa, too, of the way that you also advocate for awareness around this stuff through your own charity work and through the ways that you get involved in different walks. And you could probably talk about that more, but I think, I don't know, I just think a big part of this when you're working and you have either a family member or a friend that is struggling with mental health is to remember that this is needs to be normalized, that so many people struggle with mental health issues, and you have to think about it from a lens of how do I treat this diagnosis, right? That this is not me. It is something I have that I have to live with and work through.
Yeah, I think the stigma is like really real in today's society. So I appreciate you bringing that up, but because a lot of the times, we feel like we're the only ones going through whenever there's mental health problems. But it's really important to understand that many people go through this, and many people are scared to speak up like that. Okay, I have this, because it's just, I guess, like looked down upon in society. So I think it's important for us to understand that, of course, as you said, it is a disease, and it's something that you have to get through, but you can only get through it when you have that support, and one individual, two individuals, but also from society as a whole. And so I think it's important for us to be aware of that, and something that there are solutions to it. We can work towards it, but we need to have that, I guess, those affirmations from those around us. And so it's something that shouldn't be like, ostracized by everyone else. And Alyssa, one thing I want to say I really appreciate about you is that you're not making mentoring just a part of your life story, but you're also advocating for it, as like, Kristin, and you were sharing earlier, you do a lot of charity work, philanthropy, and just a lot of work with advocating for the importance of it. And I think that's very special to have in somebody, because like it's easy to, it's helping you in your life, but sharing that and making it a part of many people's lives is not an easy thing to do. So thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. So Kristin and Alyssa, do you guys have any like short anecdotes or stories to share with our listeners on like how you've interacted and strengthened your relationship? I know on the blog there was a couple of traditions you guys have together, but I want to leave you guys to that. So
I
Alyssa,
think
you go first.
I think a side note in general is like sometimes your mentor won't work in every situation. Sometimes you need other people to reach out to,
Mhm.
other people to lean on. Sometimes you forget that the other person has other things going on in their life. And so like even if one day you have a bad day, it doesn't mean the whole relationship is over. I think I think sometimes even I forget that like we're both human and we both are navigating things, and it's not just us. So sometimes you have to have different people or take a year apart or and come back to it. But it's never really gone. Like even with other people I've seen within systems and leaving the systems and leaving the programs, I think they always love to hear from you with an email or a note to the agency. They may not always be able to respond, but I think don't give up or don't let fear of them not reaching out hold you back, because you never know if they can respond.
Yeah, true.
Alyssa, do you want to share some of the traditions that we share or the things that we do together
Yeah.
that you like?
Apple picking is my favorite. We go apple picking every year with Kristin's family, and sometimes my friends come. And it's I think we're going on 5 or 6 years of doing that. And on Thanksgiving, I really like jars and notes. So we found a jar that says thankful on it, and we put what we're thankful for in the jar, and we pass it around the table for people to read. Really fun.
Yeah. As we're approaching Thanksgiving, while we are recording this, I have the jar on my table. Alyssa's coming over um, for Thanksgiving, and I, in prep for Thanksgiving, I opened the jar and read through all of the notes from the years that I've kept with my daughter. And I just think this is like such a wonderful gift that Alyssa has given our family. Has, she's joined our family for traditions, but she also brings new traditions and shares her traditions. And just being able to do that together feels like such a special gift to me. And I think about even like, at Christmas when we exchange gifts and but probably the most significant moments are the insignificant ones, right? The simple times that we're just hanging out and helping each other with something silly or simple. And the best example I have is I hate Halloween. My daughter loves it, and Alyssa's very crafty. And so, probably 2 years ago, I decided how I was going to get into Halloween was to make Ella costumes. That I always remembered my mom making me costumes, and so I was going to start making her costumes. And so I had this idea to make a ghost costume, and I get the skirt, and it's up to her chest, and it's like a big fluffy white skirt, and I make the face of a ghost, and it kept falling down. And I'm like, I can't keep it up. I don't know how she's gonna get through trick or treating. And Alyssa was like, oh, well, we can fix that. Just put a piece of felt over the shoulder and tie 2 buttons into the skirt, and you'll be fine. And I was like, okay, well, you've just solved my problem, and now you're gonna be a consultant every time I do the Halloween costumes. And every year, Alyssa's like, you should maybe try this. And so I just really, I think those little moments where the other person maybe shows a skill or teaches each other about something are the most impactful.
Yeah, I love that. I see Alyssa's background. She has her little like supplies and stuff for stitching. So I can tell Alyssa you're talented at that. And I love what you said about how like mentors and mentees, they have these like little memories they built over the years. As you guys said, you have these traditions for like 5 or 6 years. And I think that's what makes it more impactful. And I know it's just throughout traditions. And I liked Kristin how you said you guys are like family now. And I think that's something that happens over years, and that truly shows the power of the trust that you guys have in each other, because that's one of the most important foundational things. And then, I one of the I read a quote a few days back, and I think it really shows your relationship well. It was by Simon Sinek. So it was, a mentor is not someone who walks ahead of you to show you how they did it. A mentor walks alongside you to show you what you can do. And I think that shows really well what you guys do together. It's just like someone you can rely on. And as you said, Alyssa is her own independent person. And it's just that being that listening ear, being somebody that she can talk to, that's more important than being someone, rather than you showing her the way, you let her do her go her own way, and you kind of guide her in that. And I think that's so beautiful. And so it's wonderful how you guys shared your mentoring journey with us and how it's developed over time. It's evolved. And of course, the foundation of trust is one of the most important things in your relationship. And it's epic to see how it has, developed and evolved over time. So that wraps up today's very insightful session with Kristin Howard from Silver Lining Mentoring and her mentee, Alyssa. Your stories and experiences are so heart-touching, and your mentoring relationship is so beautiful. I loved all the stories you shared with us. It's so unique to you guys, and we're grateful for you giving your time to us today. Thank you so much. For our listeners, have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to subscribe to Talk It Out with Pratika Karkwal for more content like this. And please feel free to share your topic requests. I'd love to hear from you guys. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much, Kristin and Alyssa, once again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.